Good morning and welcome to the show. This is In Touch, and In Touch is our weekly half-hour public affairs show, which means that if you are a nonprofit group or organization, if you are a company here in the Hudson Valley helping out a nonprofit group or organization, we'd love to have you on the program, talk about what is important to you. And at the end of the show today, I'll give you a myriad of ways that you can get a hold of me. Trust me. Lots of ways you can get a hold of me. You can find me, and we'd love to have you on the show. Let me tell you that before I turn the microphone on, it is pre-recorded, and whatever station you're listening to this morning, just go to that website and keyword In Touch, and you will get this program, this interview, and an article with links and phone numbers and anything else that we're going to talk about this morning, because I am pretty sure that you may not have pen in hand to write everything down. So let me turn on the microphone. We are welcoming for the first time, which is very, very cool, Laura Litchfield-Kimber. She is the executive director of the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum. So Laura, thank you very, very much for being here.
Well, thank you, and good morning.
This is nice that you're here. We always talk a little bit before the mics are turned on. Mm-hmm. And I remember it seems like a million years ago, the very first time talking about this idea of a Mid-Hudson Children's Museum and a little storefront in the South Hills, what had been the South Hills Mall, and how did that work? And I remember taking my stepdaughter there when it was, I remember her standing in the middle of the hula hoop with the bubbles and, kinds of things, and parties that were done there and memories that were made. And it was really cool. And then getting the building and of course, it has expanded and grown, and you guys are doing so much, which is such an understatement. So it's great that you're here. For some of us who have certain memories of a certain time frame in the museum's history, to see and to be surprised and love what's going on. So thank you very much for being here.
Yep. Well, thank you.
This is very cool. So we talked before we turned the microphones on, as we always do. Kind of the first question is, so what's been going on over the past, how many years? Which is such a loaded question. But bring us up to speed, a history or a mission, however you would like to frame it, of what's been going on.
No, I'd be happy to. The Mid-Hudson Children's Museum was actually founded in 1989, which if you think about that means we all had really funny hair and a lot of bad clothing choices. Myself included. I was not in the Hudson Valley. I was actually in college at the time. But it started with a group of volunteers that got together and wanted to really invest in children and in youth and the types of experiences that were going to make healthy communities. And so from all volunteer effort, which is the way a lot of children's museums start, it did eventually have its first home in the South Hills Mall. Mm-hmm. And after a while, there was this thought of what would happen if we brought it to downtown Poughkeepsie. And there was a volunteer board at the time with an executive director charged with finding its new forever home, as we like to say in the industry, and very intentionally bringing the museum into the heart of the city. Mm-hmm. From what is a little bit more of the outer ring, almost suburb area, because they wanted to benefit from the diversity of the city and also have it be sort of this hallmark of Poughkeepsie. And so in about 2002, they did a capital campaign. They purchased the building on the waterfront. The waterfront has changed so much. We have the walkway over the Hudson didn't exist then, if you think about it. Right. And so now it really has. And so in 2012, when I was considering coming to take the helm as the executive director, I was fortunate enough to have, as part of the group interested in bringing me to town, the planners for the waterfront. So this is before the walkway's elevator was installed or before Upper Landing Park was materialized, but I knew it was coming. And so the opportunity to, help the museum grow into its next stage, while the rest of the waterfront was getting this sort of enthusiastic shot on the arm, so to speak, was really, really exciting. But at the time I came in, the museum had faltered a little bit. And a lot of people don't realize in 2010, it almost closed its doors. Yeah. And so for me, I tend to be a fixer. I did have a moment when I came in and I'm thinking, ooh, I may have bitten off more than I can chew. But what was really exciting is we had the support of some really key players in town, and we had a committed board, and there was field-wide enthusiasm within the field of children's museums. I came from the science center world, where science centers are starting to embrace early learning and embrace the part of them that are children's museums. And so I was already involved in the field of children's museums and science centers. And so I was able to bring, 8 years of experience from my former museum here, and, bringing in structure, bringing in process, board development skills, knowing how to hire people for impact. I mean, all of those things that, in a way, it became a laboratory to test out all the things that I'd been doing for 8 years.
Is this going to work?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. It was a little scarier, though, too, because when you're the number 2 in an organization, there's always someone above, and then when you come in and you're the executive director, it's like, ooh, all eyes are on you, But the way we started when I came in was to really take a look at what the community needed, and it was an interesting thing. My background is in the sciences. I'm a plant pathologist by training, which is incredibly geeky stuff, but it means I'm a microbiologist, and I studied plant diseases that were affecting food systems, and so I can talk that language when I need to, and which is, it also affects the way I think and the way I analyze opportunities, is just being trained in the sciences. So that's always been part of who I am. And when I came, I thought I was just going to, do a new science center, like that's in my wheelhouse. I can do that. But I did have the opportunity to go on what I call a listening tour. And I met with heads of businesses, educators, members, funders. And I asked a question because there wasn't a lot of clarity about who the museum served or wanted to serve. And so I'm like, well, let's go back to what a true children's museum is. It's for young children. So my question that I asked everybody was pretty simple. What are the top 3 issues facing families with young children? It was a great way for me to be introduced to the community to ask a question like that. And I was slightly devastated when they didn't say science education, because it was like, ooh, new plan.
You're like, wait, hang on.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the reality check and putting my ego at the door, like, okay, so we're going to step out of what I thought was my comfort zone. But what we heard in terms of the top 3 issues became the foundation for our strategy. The first and most important was, we really care about the state of early childhood learning. And that I could do, The next was a big concern over health and wellness and equity around health and wellness issues. And then the third was something I heard, but also something I was seeing, because if you remember in 2012, it was an election year, was community building. There was a lot of division. And how when children's museums are at their best, they are places of inclusion and diversity. And so, from these conversations, we formed a strategy of focusing on early childhood learning, getting children ready for a successful transition into kindergarten, on health and wellness, and on community building. And, we also did some check-in work on our mission. Our mission's really simple. We empower young children and their families. That's it. You don't have to memorize something really scary. It can fit on the back of a T-shirt. All of our staff know it. All of our board know it. Our partners know it. And so if we have an opportunity come our way that allows us to empower young children and their families, and if it falls into the early learning, health and wellness, or community building, guess what? We're going to be right there.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that we've done, being driven by that type of strategy, that have really propelled us to a new level of community impact, have been where all 3 of those kind of intersect. The one real hallmark program that we have, we could not have done it without community partnership, which was also a new thing for the Children's Museum. I think we tried to fly solo for a few years anyways, right before I came. And so I reached out to the Catherine Street Community Center, to Universal Pre-K, which is at the Smith School, and it's part of the Poughkeepsie City School District. And then more recently, Head Start in Poughkeepsie. We partner with those 3 early learning centers. And we got federal money. And then we got United Way money. United Way of the Dutchess Orange region, I do have to do a plug for them, because they took the risk on us. When we said, look, we have a pilot idea here, and they funded a proof of concept project that then got the federal funding. And so what that project is we bring every child who's enrolled in pre-K in the city of Poughkeepsie to the Children's Museum for free monthly field trips. We pay the busing.
Wow.
We pay the admission.
That's
we
huge.
pay the program.
That's huge.
But we don't stop there. Every child then has a family membership.
Oh,
and
that's
so
great.
if their parents can't come as chaperones, they can use the museum. And because there's just, the reality within museums is a lot of inner city families don't feel comfortable going to a museum. Maybe it's a cultural barrier, maybe it's a cost barrier. It's allowed us to kind of roll out the red carpet to families that are in our neighborhood that would play in our parking lot maybe, but not come through the door. And they've become our power users. With these memberships, they're visiting very regularly. And, it helps to inform the programs that we do. We are a total melting pot in this community right now because we went outside, our comfort zone and created a very strong network of early learning centers. So we are, first name basis, speed dial basis with principals and the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Parents know us by name. Our educators are pretty much rock star superheroes. If they walk somewhere, oh, there's Mr. Peter. And, sometimes he has costumes and sometimes it's just him. But we're really forming a community bond
Mm-hmm.
with families. And as these pre-K kids then transition into kindergarten, that's where we see the big impact, because it's not just that we're doing a nice, fluffy field trip. We developed our field trip programs with a friend of mine who works at the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian actually has a school inside the 19 museums.
Mm-hmm.
And we adapted their early learning program specifically to give children who don't have a lot of resources access to skill building activities that will make sure that they are up to speed when they go into kindergarten. And my favorite quote ever was when I ran into the superintendent of the Poughkeepsie City Schools, Dr. Nicole Williams, and she said, "What are you doing to our kids?" And you have that moment where you're like, I hope it's good.
I hope this is a good thing.
I know,
Okay.
but I looked at her and she said her principal just asked for an honors kindergarten class because the kids who were coming from the museum program were testing in at almost first grade readiness levels. And in the city of Poughkeepsie, where we're not going to address high school graduation rates, but we can address the front end. We can make sure that kids are ready to learn and families are ready to partner with teachers. And so they get to practice that at these field trips. Parents and teachers become part of the same team instead of an adversarial role.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of work that we do. We are the conveners. We bring people together, and that's where the amazing part and things happen. So that's probably our hallmark program. And, because we had the funding, we also sought additional funding to make sure that while these students are here, that they have access to new and amazing and innovative things. So a lot of our other funding to help create new exhibits and gallery spaces benefits everybody.
The one thing too that oftentimes has been talked about is, children who grow up to be adults who then have children, how the adults saw school when they were in school and how they reacted to teachers and principals when they were in school carries on how they react and respond with their children. So you're also helping to break that cycle. Right. You're bringing them in and they do become part of the same team, but you're changing the way people are looking at things so that the children absolutely has a benefit. But it also helps de-stress a family situation where maybe it doesn't need to be there. So that's even another part, not just getting the child ready for school, but really helping in the family dynamic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned the family dynamic because there are a lot of roles that Children's Museum play in our community that might not be, when you think Children's Museum, you think of a learning space or a place to go play and explore with your children. But we actually partner with a lot of agencies in town. We go and solicit and receive funding so that other health and human services agencies, so their staff, can come to the museum with their clients and have either a supervised visitation place or just something better than a room with a table and chairs. Sometimes it's where families are reunited because their families might be going through the court system, and so this would be a supervised visitation space. It's also the reason we have the security measures we have. For example, like as an adult, you can't come into the Children's Museum unless you have a child.
Right.
And we get some heat for that. But unless it's a business meeting and staff is meeting for you, because we are so serious about our role and we do welcome, families of all backgrounds, we need to make sure that the families feel safe, they know they're safe, that our partners of other agencies know that we have that. And that's a little bit different from maybe an older, like a science center or something where individuals who, might be in college or might be senior citizens would come on their own. And when people understand why, that it's because our core audience is children, some of whom who can't even speak, they're like, oh, we get it.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Enough said. And if someone doesn't get it, this is why we have
We
security on
explain
the
it.
door.
Right.
This is exactly why. Holy smokes. I got to tell you, every time I do a show, I always learn something. But this is where I wish people could see the look on faces whenever you talk about it and your eyes light up and the work that has been done. You talk about coming out of, what was in your wheelhouse and then going, okay, hang on a second. Let's see where this is. You have used, as you mentioned, your skills, being trained in the sciences of, you ask questions and you listen. And you compile that information. And then you go based on that. You don't just sit in a room with just a few people and go, what do you think? Let's have our gut feeling, because that may or may not be correct until you get information from the people that are there who are living it, who are your clientele, your customers, the community. That way, to me, like if I'm someone who is donating or giving of my time, you look at organizations like that. You look for them to say, okay, they really are addressing what they know is going on.
And needs change over time.
Yes, exactly.
What we learned from our pre-K work, for example, initially the focus was on getting children ready to learn language, ready to read, ready to be successful, learning to write. And because we were so successful in our first couple of years of working with our early learning center partners, they said, okay, well, now that we're really nailing that one on the head, can we go further? And so we opened a science center in February of 2016. And, for me, I was like, yay, it's finally the homecoming. A little later, it was like 3.5 years later than I expected. But it came generically because the needs of the program had evolved to that point. We were hearing from the teachers and we were hearing from parents that children, the next frontier of mastery for them was going to master critical thinking that was going to allow them to be successful in the science curriculum in school. And so we're like, guess what? We can do that. We co-evolve with our classes. And so when we open the Science Center, our whole upstairs riverfront gallery will always be a science center. It is designated as that space. It's open-ended learning. This is where we really see, the parents who understand what a children's museum is. This is where they're in their glory, because you see moms and dads getting on the floor, building things, trying things out. It's loud, it's messy. Our staff doesn't always love it, but that makes me love it more. We have a euphemism for cleaning up. It's called resetting exhibits, but it basically means taking the pandemonium of, a group fully engaged in the kind of experience there and making it so every family that comes into that space next is going to have that open-ended experience as well. So our Science Center opened from that. The other thing that we learned from our partners has been the need to address nutrition education in the city of Poughkeepsie. And there are some great organizations that we're just partnering with right now. But within children's museums, a lot of them are addressing nutrition education. So we started a children's garden exclusively to help parents and children learn to grow their own food. It's not tricky,
Nice.
But they practice, they plan, they measure. So they have their math and they have their language skills being developed. And it's part of what we're doing with our pre-K programs. It's also part of why we're exploring our next new major thing, which is still a little scary, but I'll let it leak here on the air, is that the food insecurity issue in Poughkeepsie is so significant and severe. We see it when children come into their field trips on Monday or on a Thursday, for example. We know they're coming hungry. Okay. It's not usually within the world of children's museums to take something like that on, but we also have the space, which is our covered pavilion. We're bringing a farmer's market back to Poughkeepsie. It's going to be a public farmer's market.
Wow.
We're going to be, and we've been talking with, partners who are really enthusiastic about it. It's a big and, kind of lofty goal for us, but hearing that the neighborhood that we reside in is a food desert, that fresh, affordable, healthy produce is not available to our kids and our families, all of a sudden, this becomes mission critical to us. This is health and wellness. This is making sure that our educational programs talking about how to work with kale or, how to make a salad becomes absolutely ingrained and interwoven in the programming that we have. But we're not going to just have it be for our families. It's going to be open to the public, and it's going to take an underutilized space, which is our pavilion, and make it available for anybody who lives in Poughkeepsie. And we're realizing, as we started to do sort of some of our thinking around this, that the fact that the waterfront foot traffic has increased, in part because of the walkway, in part just because it's a really cool place to go, but we're also right next to the train station. We have, it would almost be irresponsible of us not to pursue this and to see if this can fly. And it's a little tricky because, I looked to the national field of children's museums, and who else is doing a farmer's market? We will be the first. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
For the Hudson Valley, for Poughkeepsie. It's been really exciting seeing, the enthusiasm around our new mayor. And for us, this is a way we can do our part to benefit just even a larger audience than the 70,000 people who are now coming to the museum, which has tripled since I got here. I mean, so we're recognizing that as we rise, it's our responsibility to make sure that our community can rise as well. And that's really our approach we take with everything.
So this summer will be the first. Do you have the date yet, or
we're shooting for?
Later?
We'll probably be doing it on Mondays. So it'll be a Monday market in the afternoon, early evening. So from like 4 to 7:30.
Nice.
We are going to be putting a call out for vendors. We have a few partners who have come on board early. But this is really focusing on food. So the idea that you can grab food and take it home, but we'll also be connecting it with some educational programming and demonstrations, because that's what we do.
Right.
But some of our partners will make it so that we can accept SNAP benefits and
that'd be powerful.
WIC benefits and use EBT cards. So that, if we're going to do it, we don't just want to have it be access and education. We want to make sure it's affordable to people who live in Poughkeepsie, and that it also supports our farmers. So me going back to my background in agriculture, that part is really important to me too, because we have some incredible farms here, and being able to highlight them, showcase them, let them know that their produce is being consumed locally and not just shipped down to New York City is a really valuable opportunity for us.
This phrase is overused, but it really is a win-win all the way around. I mean,
win-win.
It's like there's like 7 wins in this thing. Like you said, that would be very, very powerful. What a great thing. And then probably that could be a pilot program for other children's museums.
I know.
And looking at it, and really, as you mentioned, you don't just stay there. Needs change in the community. They can change monthly. Sometimes they change weekly, depending. And you guys seem to have everybody on staff and on board and on volunteers that look at that.
Right.
And not only look at it, but recognize that. So because you have to have an organization that is flexible enough, you have to have your plan and you have to work your plan. But you also have to build flexibility into it. You go, okay, yeah, I know this is the plan, but now we're going to have this in, and now we're going to look at that.
Right. And as we hire people onto our staff, and as we look for people to come in and join our crew as a volunteer, we're pretty right out there saying, look, we are a fast-moving organization. You have to be comfortable with risk. You have to know that we'll turn on a dime if a new opportunity is right there and it fits with our criteria. I'm actually such a geek that I have the criteria written down, and it hangs at everybody's desk in terms of, do we do something or do we not? But it helps everybody get around our way of making decisions and, how do we evaluate opportunities? Because we do have some things that are great ideas that are not appropriate for what we're doing, and saying no can be really hard, but we do. And I think part of what makes organizations strong is to know where your focus needs to be and not be too pushed in one direction or the other. That said, we still like to say yes to as much as we possibly can, because it makes us a good community partner.
But it's an intelligent choice. And too many times, too often, people say yes to everything and then run the risk of losing an identity and losing their focus. And then the folks that you try to help, you end up not helping at all.
Right.
So taking a look at time, believe it or not, we're 25 minutes in. So we have like 5 minutes. But what I want to do is, how can people, let's give the basic who, what, when, where, why. Like the hours, where is it, what is membership, those kinds of things.
Yeah, we are, maybe starting from, the 30,000 foot view, it's important to remember that the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum is a not-for-profit organization. We are supported by earned revenue, which is a very, boring way of saying that we charge admission. We also have memberships. So for families that know they're going to visit, that can be frequently throughout the year, it can be a really good deal for them to purchase a membership. And we have a few different levels depending on what the benefits are. All of them include free admission for a year to our museum. Some of them include travel privileges to other museums. If you travel a lot outside of our area, for example, you can go to other children's museums for 50% off, or either science centers for free, depending on where you're going.
Okay.
We do also rely on donations. And as a not-for-profit, that's pretty key to most other agencies here. We're very fortunate that we're starting to see an increase in the level of support. But I think if anybody's interested in supporting the museum, supporting the farmers market, supporting the work we're doing in early childhood learning, we have a very swanky website now. Katie Dwyer Designs is fantastic and she's with Hand in Hand Marketing also. She helped us really figure out how to have that online presence, but you can make gifts right there. You can become a member online.
Okay.
You can buy a ticket online. You can see our full calendar of events. We have a full education staff that puts together weekly programs, daily programs. Anytime we have a special event, it's all online. We also are on Facebook, if you look up Mid-Hudson Children's Museum. It's been really interesting watching how social media has evolved, because we're on Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google, and all of the different ways people can leave reviews. We've been really happy to see that our number of stars have been moving up across the board.
That's good.
So that's a way that everyone can help also, is leave a great review for the Children's Museum if you had a good experience. We also have, if you want to volunteer, you can do that through our website as well. So our website, mhcm.org. It's pretty fun to go and explore.
Wow, I love that. It truly is one-stop shopping. You can take a look at everything.
That was by
and
design.
find out what. Yeah, but that's nice. You can find out what's going to fit for you. So even if you have guests coming in for the weekend, you can go there and say, "I know they're coming this weekend.
Right.
Get the tickets.
Yep.
You're good."
Yep. You can do that from Yelp too, which I think it's funny.
Wow.
With Yelp, the whole they have a call to action button, which is basically buy tickets. So what we're seeing is when people are coming up from the city, which they're doing more and more, they're actually finding us on Yelp and buying tickets right then and there, and it's all pretty streamlined. So I wouldn't have thought that I would like Yelp as much as I do, but I'm starting to.
I love it. I love it. All right. We have actually, it's almost time for, you're going to have to come back. Let's just, before I even ask you for closing comments, you're just going to have to come back.
I'd be happy to.
Because I love what is, not just what is happening, but the process behind what is happening, because that tells me that it's going to continue happening. There's going to be continued growth.
That's the plan.
There's going to be continued expansion. There's going to be continuing looking and asking and listening to the community. The changes that you're making in people's lives, the changes that you're making in families' lives, that will obviously in our communities' lives. Like you said, with the Poughkeepsie High School, no, you can't address the high school graduation, but you're impacting the class of whatever. I'm not good at math, let's just say that. But you're impacting those classes and those children, and that's powerful. And you can't get any better than that.
Well, thank you.
So if anybody, I always say that, if you are looking to where to donate your hard-earned money and your hard-earned time, then you always look for organizations like this, I think, that are really looking at the community, what's going on. So whatever station you're listening to this morning, go to the website, keyword In Touch, and the show will come up, and we'll have an article that will have links to everything. So I'll link to Facebook, we'll link to the website. But final comments, Laura, that you'd like to leave with everyone?
I just have to say that, being part of a revitalization in Poughkeepsie is absolutely fascinating for me as a leader, for our staff. Watching, there's a grittiness to this city where we're rising above some of what you see dragging other communities down right now. And to be a part of that, and to know that we can be a safe place for families as all of the crazy world happens around us, is really a privilege. So we're very, very happy that the community is responding to the changes we're making, and that we have an opportunity to have the impact that we have. It's really with gratitude that we go to work every day.
Well, we're grateful that you were there. So thank you very much. I'm so glad in 2012 you came.
Yeah, me too.
It's a great thing. Thank you very, very much for being here. And thanks to all of you for being here. If you have any questions about anything we talked about on the show today, remember, whatever station you're listening to this morning, head to the website, keyword In Touch, and you will see this show as well as other shows. But for this show, you can hear the interview all over again on demand and also have links to everything. If you'd like to be on the program, if you want to talk about what you are doing in our community, then here's how you can get a hold of me. You can email beth.christie@townsquaremedia.com. You can call 845-471-1500, extension 159. I am on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram. I'm too many places, which means it's very easy to find me. And we'd love to have you on the show to talk about what is important to you. Take care of yourself and those you love. And we'll see you right here next week.